This is just the news. I'm Faye. India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, has died in a helicopter crash with 13 others in Tamil Nadu today. General Rawat was travelling with his wife, Madhulika Rawat, and 12 others to the Defence Services Staff College at Wellington in the Nilgiri Hills to address the faculty and the student officers at the staff course today. The Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 helicopter, in which he was travelling with a crew of 4 members and 9 other passengers, met with a tragic incident this afternoon. The Indian Air Force has confirmed that there's been only one survivor, Group Captain Varun Singh SC, who's currently under treatment at the military hospital in Wellington. Defence Minister Mr. Rajnath Singh tweeted and confirmed, and I quote, "Deeply anguished by the sudden demise of the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 other armed forces personnel in an extremely unfortunate helicopter incident today in Tamil Nadu. His untimely death is an irreparable loss to our armed forces and the country," end quote. The Indian Air Force had earlier in the day tweeted that an inquiry would be conducted to ascertain the cause of the accident. General Rawat was appointed in 2019 as India's first ever Chief of Defence Staff, which is a position that is above the chiefs of the 3 arms of our defence. It's a key role created by the central government to serve as a single point advisor to the government on all matters related to the armed forces and the military. He was the 27th chief of our army from 2017 to 2019 before his elevation to CDS, which analysts say was to improve the integration between the Army, the Navy and the Air Force. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had on the 15th of August 2019 announced that India will have a Chief of Defence Staff to head the tri-services. General Rawat is credited for being instrumental in reducing militancy in the northeast of India. The 2015 cross-border operation into Myanmar, in which the Indian Army successfully responded to an ambush by the NSCNK militants, was conducted under his supervision. It was also part of the planning of the 2016 surgical attacks, in which the Indian Army went across the line of control into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and conducted an airstrike on the terror camps in Pakistan's Balakot. Moving on to other news. A special NIA court has set bail conditions for lawyer-activist Sudha Bharadwaj release in the Ailgad Parishad case. She's been in jail for over 3 years. The Bombay High Court granted default bail to her last week. The conditions include the fact that she will reside within the jurisdiction of the court in Mumbai and will not leave the city without permissions of the court. The court has also said that Ms. Bharadwaj cannot make any statements at all regarding the proceedings of the case to anyone in media, digital or on social media, and will not address any large gatherings of visitors other than her relatives. Special Judge Dinesh E. Kotalikar allowed her release on a cash bail with a time of 1 month to submit securities. Her lawyers have challenged her gag order, saying that it infringes on her right to speech and expression. The Farmers Union of the Samyukta Kisan Morcha has said that they have accepted the central government's proposals on pending demands, and they will make a decision on calling off the protest tomorrow at noon. According to the Indian Express, in a statement, the Samyukta Kisan Morcha has confirmed that it has received a draft proposal from the Government of India and that the consensus has been arrived within the Samyukta Kisan Morcha to accept that proposal. Now, a formal communication has been signed on the government's letterhead is awaited. The SKM will meet tomorrow at noon at the Singhu border to take a formal decision on whether or not to finally end the morchas. This comes after a 5-member committee constituted by the Samyukta Kisan Morcha held a meeting with the government. Farmers, remember, have been protesting at the borders of Delhi since November last year. Updates now on the Omicron virus. The central government has written to states and union territories saying that patients with the new COVID variant have to be treated at designated COVID facilities with separate isolation areas. The Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan, in a letter to state governments and union territories, has said, and I quote, "It has to be ensured that no cross-infection takes place and adequate precautions are being taken by healthcare workers in these facilities to prevent transmission to other patients and healthcare workers, end quote. In the meantime, the Omicron variant has now been reported in 57 countries. The WHO has said hospitalizations will now go up. The WHO in a statement has said, and I quote, even if the severity is equal or potentially even lower than that of the Delta variant, it is expected that hospitalizations will increase if more people become infected, that there will be a time lag between the increase in incidence of cases and the increase in incidence of deaths, end quote. The WHO has also said that more research is required to determine the severity of this variant and vaccines' effectiveness against the variant. In the meantime, India reported 8,439 new COVID cases, of which, remember, we only have about 24 cases of the new variant. Australian health authorities have said that they've discovered a new variant of the Omicron lineage from a traveller that had arrived from South Africa to Queensland. According to a report in Bloomberg, the new lineage is about half a gene variation of the original and cannot be detected through typical screening. Australian health authorities have said the new lineage has enough markers to be able to classify it as Omicron, but we don't know enough about it, which means as far as clinical severity, vaccine effectiveness is concerned, we don't know yet. We now have Omicron and Omicron-like. An update from Parliament. The central government has informed Parliament on Tuesday that it's been able to achieve the target of abolition of manual scavenging completely from the country as per the prescribed definition under the law. Now, according to the law, which is called the Prohibition of Employment of Manual Scavengers and Their Rehabilitation 2013, manual scavenging has been defined as cleaning, carrying, disposing of, or handling in any manner human excrement in an insanitary latrine. And it was prohibited back in 2013. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment Minister Virendra Kumar has said in Parliament, and I'm quoting, all identified and eligible manual scavengers have been provided with assistance for their rehabilitation. A mobile app was launched last year to identify existing unsanitary latrines. After field verification of the data uploaded on the app, no existence of an insanitary latrine has been verified anywhere in the country. And therefore, there is no report of the practice of manual scavenging currently in the country at all. Earlier, Union Social Justice and Empowerment Minister Ramdas Athavale informed Parliament that out of the 43,797 identified manual scavengers working in that job, 42,594 belong to the scheduled castes, 421 belong to scheduled tribes, 431 belong to other backward classes. Remember, in this year, in the monsoon session, the central government informed Parliament that there have been no deaths due to manual scavenging at all in the last 5 years. These numbers have strongly been contested by human rights groups who are working on the ground. According to the latest World Inequality Report 2022, India stands out as, and I quote, poor and very unequal with a very affluent elite, where the top 10% of the population holds 57% of the wealth, the total national income, whereas the bottom 50%, so half the population, has only 13% of the national income. According to this report, India's middle class's average income is 7.23 lakh per year. I assume that is about 30% of the national income. The top 10% income is 63 lakh rupees. And the top 1% has an income of 3.24 crore. The average annual national income of the Indian adult population is a little over 2 lakh rupees in the year 2021. The Defence Ministry announced on Tuesday that India has successfully test-fired a vertical launch short-range surface-to-air missile from the integrated test range in Chandipur off the coast of Orissa on Tuesday. Defence Ministry has said the launch was conducted from a vertical launcher against an electronic target with a very low altitude. The Ministry of External Affairs on Tuesday expressed its discontent over Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi's jail term. Ms. Suu Kyi has been sentenced to 4 years in jail for flouting COVID rules. Aung San Suu Kyi has several charges against her, including importing a walkie-talkie into her country and inciting violence, among others. She was arrested after a military coup in February this year took over the country. The Ministry of External Affairs for India spokesperson said, and I quote, "We are disturbed by the recent verdicts. As a neighboring democracy, India has been consistently supportive of a democratic transition in Myanmar." Taking a look now at news coming in from the world of business and economy. The RBI's monetary policy kept the repo rate unchanged with a record low of 4%. The reverse repo rate is 3.35%, I beg your pardon, amid concerns of the Omicron variant sort of disrupting our recovery as an economy. The rates were also left unchanged during the last monetary policy meeting in October. This is the 9th straight time that the rates have been unchanged at 4%. While announcing the monetary policy, RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has said Indian economy is relatively well positioned on the path of recovery, but it cannot be immune to global spillovers and the possibility of surges of infections from new mutations, including the new variant. Let's take a look at news coming in from across the world as well right now. Australia and Britain announced that they will join the United States in a diplomatic boycott of February's Winter Olympics in Beijing. The United States had earlier said its government officials will boycott February's Beijing Olympics because of China's human rights violations. China said the United States would pay the price for this decision and warned of countermeasures in response. Olaf Scholz will now be replacing Angela Merkel as German chancellor. He secured a majority of votes of 395 out of a total of 736 delegates in a parliamentary vote on Wednesday. Olaf Scholz will head the coalition government between his party, which is the Social Democratic Party, the Greens, and the Liberal Free Democratic Party. He's the former mayor of Hamburg and finance minister in Angela Merkel's term. Remember, Angela Merkel has been the leader of Germany now for 16 years. A look right now, news coming in from the world of sports. The BCCI has announced Rohit Sharma will replace Virat Kohli as India's ODI captain. Rohit Sharma had earlier replaced Kohli as the T20 international captain after Kohli quit T20 captaincy following the last World Cup. India will be locking horns with South Africa in 3 tests and 3 ODIs coming up. Shubham Gill and Ravindra Jadeja have been dropped due to injury. Ajinkya Rahane and Pujara are part of the test team. And a piece of positive news, because we could use some. Chile's government has passed a law to legalize same-sex marriage in the country after almost a battle that lasted a decade. The bill was passed with 82 votes in favor, 20 against, and 2 abstentions. The Minister of Social Development said after the vote that today is a historic day. Our country has approved same-sex marriage, one more step towards justice, equality, and recognizing that love is love. Remember, in India, same-sex marriage is still not recognized. There are, of course, arguments happening in the high courts right now asking that India recognize same-sex couples for marriage as well. That brings us to the end of the news. Thank you so much for watching.